third episode of GM Advice from me, that GM guy, where I attempt to pass on my 17-ish years of experience of GMing from me to you. This one is, unlike the other ones, going to be focused more on players. So more for their character concepts and backgrounds than the GMs. I know last two have been very GM focused, which is why we're going to focus a bit more on characters this time. So we're going to start off with character concepts. That's basically what we want to take a look at when we're starting a campaign. Now we're going to assume, and it's a very big assumption, that you've had a proper session zero, that you've actually had talks with your GM, and you've had time to think about what kind of character do you want to play. And the first rule is always going to be listen to the themes that your GM is bringing up. Listen to the story that they want to tell and work with them. D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, Call of Cthulhu, they are all cooperative storytelling games, which means you need to listen to the other people and see what they have. And that's going to be the easiest way for you to start designing your character. It's not wrong to think of your character beforehand, like, oh yeah, I want to play this class combination. I want to play a bard warlock. I want to play a, fighter barbarian. I want to play a sorcerer alchemist. Whatever, right? Do whatever you want with that. But character concept refers to more than just the build. It refers to who your character is as a person. So you want to pull what you can from the GM when they tell you, we'll use my Cannibal Corpse God campaign as a thing, that this story is going to be mostly about the rise of a fallen god and a guy trying to bring back a fallen god. The biggest clue there is you probably want someone who's fairly steeped in religion. You probably want someone who's actually going to be pretty decent at fighting celestial or demonic things. You're going to want somebody who has a reason to fight these creatures. So that gives you an entire key character concept right there. Who is my person? What are they? What do they want to do? My person is interested in this because they want to fight the sudden rise of this god. Maybe they were from a village that was raided in the past, and that's part of the reason why they're doing this now. They want to take down the god that may have caused it. They want to stop anyone else from feeling these atrocities. They want personal vengeance on the man who is responsible for the death of their family. Any number of reasons. And you know all of this because you listened to the GM when they said, hey, this is the theme, this is the story. Okay, you want to figure out the genre as well. Is it a hack and slash? Is it RP? Is it whatever? Because that'll tell you what kind of skills and backgrounds you want to throw at your character. What kind of things you want them to have experienced. So if it's going to be a hack and slash, well, you don't really got to worry so much about the RP aspect of things. You can probably avoid making a face character, or at least not one that's super focused that way. You can focus on the combat. If it's going to be a heavy RP thing, then maybe, just maybe, you should worry about where your character fits in life when it comes to seducing folks or talking to them, getting stuff out of them, talking to the guard, anything like that. You want to match your skills and background, your in like the entirety of your core concept to the themes, the genre of the game, whether that's horror or fantasy or high sorcery or low sorcery or sword and board, whatever it is. And that's going to do the vast majority of the work for you. If they say, hey, there's not much magic in this world, well, you're not going to try and play a wizard because your wizard's going to be super underpowered. They're going to have less spell slots. There's going to be less magic items to play with. You're not going to find, arcane shops around the corner to refill your component pouch kind of thing. That knocks off like an entire section for you. You want to listen to what the GM is saying and build your character concept from there. Now, you've got to remember as well that you can't just build a character willy-nilly, especially if it's not going to be a one shot. This is something that's going to be a part of you for as long as you can remember it. And oftentimes, the best characters are characters that have a little bit of you in them. So you want to find just a little piece of you that meshes with this story. For me, I think the one that exemplified that best was a half orc um, warlock paladin that I played a long time ago in a friend's campaign. His name was Aubrey. It was an amazing campaign. We had a lot of fun, but I played a dude who didn't want to fight at all. It was not his prerogative to fight. Instead, he'd rather build. He'd rather help people. He'd rather save people than fight monsters. And that's just a little bit of me. That's a little bit of me that I put into the character, and that character became amazing for me to roleplay. It was a lot of fun. Fighting was always the last thing. He always put himself in the front lines, not because he wanted to fight, but because he didn't want any of his party members to die. And that really came through. So it helped me interact with the other players in a different way. So don't just say, here's my character, he's a bunch of numbers. Put yourself out there. Put just a little bit of you into your character, or find a bit of you that resonates with whatever the story is going to be and build a character around that too. you know? And again, you want to build a character for the story and build a character for the themes and the genre. You don't want to try and force whatever story is being told to match you, because that's going to make you a very self-centered character that people aren't going to want to interact with. The GM is probably not going to give you magic items because you're already central to the story. Why do you need more? The other players are going to stop role playing with you because, well, you've already decided you're the leader. We'll just follow along. So build a character that's not going to force the story, okay? And what you really want to do is build up interactions with the other players as well. You don't have to have your backstory set in stone. Listen to what they say as well. Decide, hey, I want to kind of mash my backstory together with a few of you guys. Do you guys mind, maybe having a group thing? Maybe we came from the same village. Maybe whatever. Build relationships with the characters around you as well before deciding flat out, this is my character concept, this is my backstory. So in this instance, referring back to my Cannibal Corpse God campaign, we know that it's going to be a horror genre kind of thing. We're going to say it's not going to be super hack and slash. There will be monsters to fight, so you want a little bit of that combat, but mostly you want to be able to talk to people. We know that we need religion. We know that we need some way to fight against demons and stuff. I'm going to build myself a paladin, and his entire goal is going to be to stop this Cannibal Corpse God. Why is he a paladin? Because when he was younger, this god, I have a pre-existing thing. I know there's going to be a fallen god. I don't know what god it is, but you know what? I'm going to include it in my backstory because this is obviously important to the GM. This is obviously going to be important and central to the game. My village was raided by a bunch of people who stole everyone from my village except for me because I was hiding, and I never knew what happened to them. But I remember the symbol. I remember the screams and the pain, and I wanted that to never happen to anyone else again. So I became a paladin to fight against stuff like that. I have my class, I have like an interesting adventure hook, like whether or not this is going to be the central god that the DM decides is rising or not, it's okay because I have my own little character hook and the GM can play with that. I didn't give a definite, it was the god of decay, Morgoth or whatever. Um, it didn't add too many specifics, so the GM can play around with it. And that's something that's really important as well. Use a bunch of generics in your backstory so the GM has hooks that they can sink into it. Or talk with the GM beforehand and say, hey, look, I want to make a village. Hey, look, I want to make a race of elves. Hey, look, I want to make an army to fit my backstory. Do you mind if I do that? Do you mind if I make up a mountain range? And a lot of GMs will be like, sure, because you are now taking off a massive burden of world building that they no longer have to do because your character is just fine the way they are. And they get a little plot hook out of it. Oh, your character was affected by a fallen god, just like the fallen god in the main story. Well, maybe they are, in fact, the same, and maybe you were left alone not because you were hidden, but because they needed a paladin in the future, and your entire life has been manipulated. So you're giving the GM a way to hook you into the story as well, while also generating your own backstory. Now that seems like a lot of rambling, so we're gonna recap that. You've had your session 0. You know what the DM is saying. You've given off your limits and stuff. You've talked to other people. You've done the whole consent thing. And what you know is it's a horror-based theme. There's going to be religion. So you've listened to the themes. You figured out the genre. You know there's going to be a lot of RP, maybe some combat. Well, there's always going to be combat in D&D. I've never heard of a story that doesn't. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I'm going to build my character to suit the game, which means I need to have someone who can survive in a horror setting, someone who is going to be good at religion or religion-esque things. I need someone who's going to be able to talk to people, and I need someone who has some sort of backstory that ties to the central theme, which is the rising of a fallen god. Okay? And with that, you can build so much. You have half of your work already cut out for you. Now I'm going to talk to the other characters, other players, and we're going to figure out what we want to do together. I'm not just going to go, hey, look, this is the core concept that I want to play. You guys have to mesh with me. No, and it's not like if everyone else decides to play a fighter, you got to play a healer. No, figure out what kind of party you want to fit together. It's really hard on people who are always the heal bots because no one else wants to play it. It's not your responsibility to be answerable to everybody else for the heals. If you don't want to be a heal bot, be like, hey guys, buy yourself some potions because I'm gonna be a barbarian this time. You know, and if the story fails, the story fails, and the parties learn that they can't just force you into a role. Don't let yourself be forced into a role. Just like don't force your story on the entire party. It's not fair. So, talked a lot about character concepts. We talked a little bit about your building your backstory, which is based on the story itself. Um, biggest thing that you really want to do to work with the GM is build some unresolved issues for your character. And for that, it's okay to pull from your favorite media. It is absolutely okay to pull from your favorite books or songs or movies or whatever, what have you, favorite video games, and use them as your own character's traumas, especially ones that you identify with very well. And then you don't have to force them to play it the way that book or movie or video game did. You can see 1,000 different endings to the same trauma, 1,000 different hooks and plot adventures for the same initial incident. Whatever made your guy or girl or person an adventurer, you can see a different ending than you saw in that book or video game. And that's awesome. So we're going to go from scratch again. We're going to recap everything, right? I've had my session 0. I've decided I'm going to play a paladin, not because the rest of the party needs a paladin, but because I know as a person that paladin is going to fit really well into this game. And it doesn't matter what the other party people play around me. I'll be kind of a healer. I'm going to have that combat ability. I'm going to have the ability to talk to people and interact RP wise. I'm set. I have my unresolved issue from my past, which was my village was attacked, and I want to stop that from happening to anyone again. But that means I also need to figure out who attacked my village. I need to figure, hey, what kind of monastery did I go to as a child? Like, how did I become a paladin? I left and I wandered, and some dude found me, or I left and I was picked up and adopted by a church, or any number of things. How did I become a paladin? I've decided I want to play a paladin. How did I become a paladin? And what made me go from being that person to going out and adventuring? I have 3 hooks right there. My village, becoming a paladin, and all the unresolved issues that are there, and what made me stop being or training at that place and going out to save the world. 3, super simple. Maybe I just came out for the experience, maybe, but isn't it more interesting to say, hey, one of my partner paladins in training went off on an adventure just to get experience, and now I'm out to find him because he didn't return after a year, and he was a good friend of mine. That's another hook. Offer as many as you can to the GM, so when they finally find something that meshes with their story, they can latch onto it in one of the little mini arcs, like I was describing in the previous episode, and bring it into the story, make you just a little more hooked in, made you a little more included. But there are some things you want to avoid. You don't want to have every issue in your character backstory resolved immediately. You don't want to have too many specifics because then you're forcing the story to suit your player. You don't want to create some sort of selfish, self-centered story either, where it's just only I can do this. I am the chosen one. Because what if you're not? What if your character dies and then the world ends because your character was supposed to be the chosen one? Avoid making the game all about you. That's the biggest thing. Be cooperative, talk to people, learn their backstories, and figure out your own. Talk to the GM and see if you can include villages and stuff like that. And feel free to prod and poke and steal from other media to create those unresolved issues. So you can see a different ending. So you can see an ending at all, because sometimes they just never get resolved. Your backstory should rely on the good, solid session 0, or if you don't have one, what you know of the campaign. Because every GM is going to have a little blurb they can say, hey, look, this is what my campaign's about. Hey, look, this is the story I want to tell. This is the story I want to tell with you. And you can fit yourself into that. If I didn't go for a paladin, we'll use another example. I know it's going to be mainly RP. I know it's going to be horror focused. I want to play a bard this time. And you know what? I'm going to play a bard of the College of Lore because I need to know a lot of things. And I need to boost people against fear. I need to help my party. Again, I'm going to have a little bit of healing. I am bard, so I'm charisma based. I can talk like nobody's business. Because I'm the College of Lore, I'm going to have versatility out the ass. I don't need to worry about anything else other than that. And now I can make my own story. Maybe as a bard, he's devoted to figuring out the ancient secrets, and he's been poring over tomes and things and have found that certain signs around the world are beginning to point to the resurrection of a very bad god. And he's out here to stop it. He's out here to figure out why it's going on. Or maybe he actually wants to see what happens when a god comes back to life, because there have been stories told, but he's never been a part of one. Maybe that paladin is a person he knew, and he wants to go help that paladin stop the evil and mainly get a good story out of it kind of thing so he can become famous himself. That way, like, that's selfish, but it's not self-centered. It's I want my character to be involved in the story. I want a good story out of it so I can get famous. but I'm also going to help you do your thing. Now we've meshed those two character concepts together. We have a reasonably solid party. We got a frontline fighter if we need it. We got a person who's going to stay in the background and do his own thing. All right, let's pop it another one. I know that I am going to like we're same universe, we're horror themed, whatever. Um, I'm gonna pull one from who? Let's see. Where do we want to pull from next? Um, a lot of the games I play have heroes that like start off in ruined villages, and a lot of books I read the same thing. So how about a character who has a random power explode out of them and decimates their own family, and they want to figure out what that power is? So I'm going to play a sorcerer, and I'm going to play a divine sorcerer because my power came from this rising god. Maybe my family used to have a tie to him that was like, oh, we're supposed to be your high priest, so your power's in our bloodline, and it explodes out of you because this god is starting to wake up again, and you destroy your entire household. Everyone's gone. You have no idea what's going on. You're freaking out, and all of a sudden you have these powers you've never even heard of. Your family hasn't had them for generations, except maybe there's an old book or two kicking around, an old journal from a far away ancestor. Maybe someone recognizes that you have latent sorcerer's talent, and they're trying to help you figure it out. Whatever it is, now I have an interesting plot hook and I have a sorcerer tied into it. You can take any number of different ideas based around that central theme and make a character for it. And yeah, it takes a little bit of imagination at first, but that's why you can steal from your favorite media. Do it. Doesn't matter if it's a song, movie, book, video game, all that good stuff. You can totally be like, okay, I like this. I'm taking it for myself. I'm going to make a character around this. And there's a little bit of me in there. I have a thirst for knowledge. Or me personally, I'm a real big dude and I can accidentally hurt people. I understand what it's like to be that sorcerer to hurt other people unintentionally. I understand what it's like to be that paladin and lose people that you love. I know what it's like to be that bard and to want to be able to tell a good story because I'm a GM. And all those little things, just bits and pieces of me that I can put into my character. And that means I'm going to roleplay him more intensely. I'm going to be more attached to this character. And the more effort and energy you can put into the character and bring to the table, the better the story is going to be, isn't it? Imagine a group of 5 or 6 of your good friends, all of them putting themselves out there, enjoying the game, and you have this party that meshes together. And all that starts with paying attention at session zero and really knowing how to take that theme and turn it inwards and become a new character. So that's pretty much what I got for like the basics of character concept and backstory. It's not like solid, hey, do this, do this, do this, roll this on this table, do that. No, this is generic advice I want to be available for anybody, for any system. It doesn't matter. Because, yeah, you can go through a full life path generator. Yeah, you can use 5th edition's character creation backstory stuff, but none of that's going to stick if you can't identify with the character. So don't think of the character concept too hard before you hear session zero, and don't make a backstory that's too specific before you know the world you're playing in. Other than that, have fun and be kind to your DM and be kind to each other. Bye.